Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around to talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, movie news, TV, and streaming, and all sorts of good stuff. And oh boy, I've been on some good stuff. The doctors have had me on some sweet, sweet pain medication the last few days. And one who can relate with that is one Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing today, sir?
Well, John, I'm doing pretty fabulous. I know it's another Monday. It's getting hotter and hotter and hotter every day. But you know what? I'm here for it. I'm here for it. I'm in a good mood, John, and I haven't taken any pain medication. I'm my own pain medication.
Yeah, I had, for those of you who don't know, I had my, on Friday, I had my final wisdom tooth pulled. I had all my other ones pulled like 15 years ago, but there was a reason they wanted to see if this one could stay. It couldn't. The dentist went to take it out, and it gets harder as you get older to get those out. But also, apparently there was an infection, so I've been loaded up on these meds. So I might be a little more loopy than normal today. Just letting you know, might be a little bit more loopy than normal. But hey, that should just be par for the course. But listen, guys, it is awesome to have you guys here today to join us as we gather around to talk about all these cool things. And we do have a lot of cool things to talk about. And here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to break it down into two parts. The first half of the show, we're going to take some predetermined topics that we have lined up. And then in the second half of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. How do you get a live comment or question on the show or an upcoming companion video? It's easy. Just look down in the description of this video and you'll see a tip link. Just click on that there, or you can enter it in manually at www.streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. You'll be getting your comment or question read on the show if it's appropriate for the show. And of course, you'll be supporting the channel at the same time. And all of us involved here at the John Campea Show, thank you guys so much for your support. Okay, guys, listen, with all that down, let's get right into our main topics today. Now, how do we select our main topics in the John Campea Show? It's simple. You guys come up with our main topics, and it's really simple. Simply go over anytime, 24/7, whenever you come across a big topic, issue, or story that you think we should have as a main topic here on the John Campea Show, go on over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question. It's totally free. Hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you just might see your question or topic featured as a main topic here on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's get on to main topic number one, shall we? Rob, you got topic number one lined up for us here?
Can you do topic number one and I'll do topic number two?
I'll do topic number one, ladies and gentlemen. So here we go. Prestonian writes, "Hey, John and Rob. I hope that both of you had a fantastic weekend and that your mouth is healing up. It's healing up. It's getting there. Recently, there was an interview between Bill Maher and Quentin Tarantino about his intention to retire from film after one more movie. Maher argued that he is at the top of his game and it is too early to quit. What are your thoughts, John? Is it too early for him to quit, or should he bite the bullet and press on? Thanks." All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yeah, listen, whenever you're talking about Quentin Tarantino over the last couple of years, the topic of conversation, other than, Oscar buzz that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood got, has been the fact that he has been insisting for a while now that his next movie, whatever the next movie he's going to direct is going to be his final one, and that he's going to retire. That's it. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to retire. Now, I have said for a long time, I don't buy it. I believe he's telling the truth as far as he's concerned. Like, I think he believes he's going to do one more than retire. But there's no way. We've seen so many people do this, from Jay-Z and tons of athletes who say they retire, realize, you know what, I really loved what I did, and then they come back and do it. But anyway, Quentin Tarantino's on the Bill Maher show, and Maher was pressing him on it, saying, hey, listen, you're still too young. You're at the top of your game right now. But this is what Quentin Tarantino had to say. And this comes to us from the folks over at Variety, who writes, "I don't have a reason that I would want to say out loud that's going to win any argument in the court of public opinion or Supreme Court or anything like that," Tarantino explained. "At the same time, working for 30 years, doing as many movies as I've done is not as many as other people, but that's a long career. And that's a really long career. And I've given it everything I have." So Quentin Tarantino now kind of making the case about why he sort of feels like, listen, he's reminding us He's reminding us, listen, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been doing this for 30 years. And while it's not nearly as many films as some other people, I've still made a good amount of movies, and I've given everything I have. And Rob, that's why when he says, I'm going to do one more and I'm going to retire, I believe him that he's being honest. But if anything, go back a couple of years ago, Rob. Remember when The Hateful Eight, the script from The Hateful Eight leaked early, and Quentin Tarantino got out publicly and said, that's it, I'm not doing the movie. Since idiots are leaking out the script, I'm not going to do the movie. Well, but guess what? Because Quentin Tarantino's so passionate about the art and passionate about his work and what he does, ultimately he just changed his mind. He said, oh, all right, we'll do Hateful Eight. And I'm not going to lie, I wasn't the biggest fan of Hateful Eight. I don't think it's one of his better films. But whatever. He's so passionate about it, he decided he needed to get out there and do it. And by the way, Dave Atkins and Arav Kampani sent in super chat badges in the live chat. Thank you, guys. Appreciate that. But he did that. And so I believe after 30 years, Rob, and after all the movies he's put out, and the Oscar buzz that he's gotten, and the accolades that he's won, that he probably sits down and thinks right now, yeah, I can retire. But I don't believe it for a second, because I believe, Rob, 100%, that once he says cut on the final day of the shooting of his last movie, within 72 hours, he's going to start getting the creative itch again. And that within 3 years of that, we're going to be talking about another Quentin Tarantino movie. Rob, you heard the passionate statement he made, and he makes a lot of sense. He really does. He's had a long career, a successful career. Some people consider him one of the all-time greats. What more really is there left for him to accomplish? You hear his new statement. Do you now believe that he will actually retire and stay retired once he's done one more movie?
No. I mean, I think, look, he's a new father. As we found out on that Bill Maher interview, I didn't realize this. He was living in Israel at the time when COVID hit. So he was trapped. They were going to live in Israel for 3 or 4 months out of the year and then come back, kind of live in LA and Tel Aviv because her family lives there, his wife's family. And I think, now he's probably gone through a big period of soul searching. And I understand he made a really good point. He talked about Don Siegel, who is a director he admires, and that if Don Siegel had gone out with Escape from Alcatraz, he would have had a really, really great career. But instead, Don Siegel made 2 more movies, Rough Cut in 1980 and Jinxed in 1982, which were not great. So I think that Quentin Tarantino fears that and tarnishing his legacy. But the guy's only 58 years old, John. And I mean, he's been making movies since he was 28. I think, look, his book, the book version of Once Upon a Time in America comes out tomorrow, which I can't wait to get. I have it on pre-order. It should show up tomorrow. And I get where he's coming from. I mean, I do. Like 10 films is a good career, but he's a filmmaker. You've got Quentin Tarantino. Clint Eastwood's 91. And he's making movies. Ridley Scott's
about Eastwood. I wish Merritt said to him, Eastwood didn't start making his best movies until he was into his 60s. Yeah, was when he actually started making his best movies.
Absolutely. And I think that right now I understand where Tarantino's coming from. He probably, my favorite recent example is Steven Soderbergh. Yeah, I'm out. I'm not making any more movies. I'm going to go paint. That lasted, a couple of years? And now the guy, he did The Knick. He's done he's shooting movies with iPhones, like Unsane. And I think that Tarantino will, in his leisure time, come up with a story. And he will write it. Like, creative people don't just suddenly not be creative, John. They don't give up. And I mean, I guess maybe it's possible, but I just don't think he could. I think that he's a filmmaker through and through, and he just might not have an idea now, and he can't conceive. Maybe wants to write a few more novels. I don't know, but I'm willing to bet lots of money, John. I think the over/under on Tarantino making another movie after his 10th film is 100%.
Yeah, honestly, I put it right around there too. Again, not that we think he's lying. I think he believes what he's saying, but we're going to see more from him. Anyway, creative people, the fire never stops burning, and his fire is nowhere near being extinguished. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? We've talked about the potential retirement of Tarantino for a while. Now that he said these new statements, that were very, very sincere. Does it make you believe it more that, yeah, he's probably going to do 10 and that's it, he'll be finished? Or do you believe like we do that, nah, they'll be an 11th and a 12th? How do you guys feel about it? Jump on down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 2. Rob, what is our second main topic today?
Yes, John, I won't click it away this time. This comes to us from Rhett. Hey, John and Rob, did you see the Jurassic World Dominion special IMAX preview? And if so, what did you think? I haven't seen it yet, and I was wondering if you think it's worth it to go watch Fast 9, a movie that I'm not excited for and would rather wait to rent at home. In IMAX, just to see the Jurassic World preview, or should I just wait to rent Fast 9 or F9, the Fast Saga, and hope that Universal releases the Jurassic World preview online later? Thanks. Well, John, I cannot tell a lie. I have watched the Jurassic World Dominion trailer, but I did not see it in IMAX in front of Fast 9 because I really don't ever want to see Fast 9 again, and I don't even know if I'm going to buy the movie to go on the shelf with all my steelbooks of the other Fast and the Furious films. However, having watched it through other means, I would say that I bet it looks absolutely spectacular in IMAX. I don't necessarily think that it's not like the opening sequence of The Dark Knight, which gave us the whole heist.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the movie, which was spectacular in IMAX. It was a mini movie unto itself. It had a beginning, a middle, and an end. This is a scene that opened 65 million years ago, where you see dinosaurs in their natural habitat. You see, presumably, the mosquito that gets caught in amber. It's beautiful. I joked to you. I said, do you see the monolith from 2001? But I thought that it was a beautifully done, gorgeous sequence. But it's really almost like a travel log 65 million years ago. But then there's a little tag on the end that kind of is a continuation of that short film that we saw. What's it called? The Battle at
Big Rock. Big Rock. Yeah.
Battle at Big Rock. It's an extension of that. And I will say this, they're finally giving us what we wanted to see in Jurassic Park 2. I hope they take the word Dominion seriously. And really, by the end of this movie, I want all humans on Earth dead. I want dinosaurs to rule the Earth. I want climate change to be a thing of the past. I want, what I hope happens is that the return of the dinosaurs also signal a return to the ecosystem that was on the planet at the time. The dinosaurs have come back and they've somehow tripped over Mother Nature, and Mother Nature's like, you know what? I think we're going to do better with the dinosaurs. Let's try and make the world more like it was 65 million years ago. And by the end of the movie, all of humanity is extinct, and dinosaurs are living in harmony on a newly shaped planet Earth. Because, man, that's what I want to see, the downfall of humankind and the rise of the dinosaurs again. And that's what it looks like we're going to get, John. Ha, ha, ha.
Well, I mean, look, we knew going into this that, because they did give us a heads up, this isn't from the movie. Apparently, like, this little thing they put together isn't necessarily from the movie, although I guess there's nothing stopping them from using some of this footage in the movie itself. They specifically, I remember when we first talked about this, Rob, they said they specifically put this together as a way of getting people back into the theaters. And let's be honest, they made this spot for F9. That's what they made this spot for. And I'll tell you what, I am with you. It's beautiful to look at. It really, like, it was gorgeously done. And I can only imagine seeing it on an IMAX screen. I mean, I had my breath taken away just looking at it on my computer monitor. Seeing it on an IMAX screen would be fantastic. I mean, would absolutely be fantastic, no doubt about it. Now, Fast 9 is an utter garbage movie. I mean, that we've well established. It's a complete, utter, terrible garbage movie. That's coming from somebody who really loves Fast 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. All right, so keep that in mind. Anyway, but I'm not going to lie, Rob. I am tempted to go back to the theaters, use my AMC A-list to get a ticket for Fast 9, just go in and watch this thing on the big screen. Watch this Jurassic World Dominion thing on the big screen. Now, I don't know that the movie's going to be any good, but again, I just thought this was so breathtakingly beautiful to look at. Like, it was just absolutely gorgeous. And again, they threw in a little bit of Battle of Big Rock in there as well. And it's just had a nice feel to it. And again, I would even go back into a theater that F9 was playing in to watch this on the big screen, Rob. Anyway, that's my take on it. Question is for you guys. Did you guys have a chance to see this new Jurassic World Dominion little preview that they put up on the IMAX screens? If so, what did you guys think of it? Did you actually see it on the IMAX screen? If so, is it as beautiful as I'm thinking it was? Because I think this looks gorgeous. Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 3. And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by Colton M. And Colton M writes, "Hey, John, Doctor Strange was rumored to appear in WandaVision, and of course, he originally didn't. Now, there was a re-edit of the post-credit scene of the finale of WandaVision, and a Doctor Strange silhouette has been spotted. Let's just be clear, no, it hasn't. Anyway, I didn't believe that at first until the credits were changed to credit the Doctor Strange theme. Thoughts?" All right. Thanks a lot for sending that in, man. Okay. So here's the basic jiggity of it. All right. So at the end of WandaVision, as most of you guys know, there's a post-credit scene where, you're up in what I just assume is something like the Alaskan wilderness or something. And the camera zoom in, you see a lot of trees and mountains. And then you see Wanda sitting on the porch of a cabin or whatever. Right. So somebody pointed out, and it's true, that when you go back, they have touched up that CG of that camera zoom in through the mountains and the trees. There's some more trees. There's some more greenery. Now, where this gets really interesting is that I had seen this. I thought, oh yeah, there it is. But then later I started hearing people saying, John, did you know that Doctor Strange is in that new touched up footage? I'm like, what? Really? Doctor Strange is in the touched up footage? Oh my God. So I go back and I watch it again. I'm like, am I fucking playing Where's Waldo? I didn't see Doctor Strange. Okay. So I rewind and I play it again, and I rewind and I play it again. And ultimately, this is what we come down to. All right. We come down to this. People are insisting, if you look, they say, near the top of one of the ridges, you'll see something moving down, right? And here's a close-up of it. Here it is. This is the close-up. Does that look like Doctor Strange? I don't think so. Now, here's the thing. As you go back and watch that footage again, you'll notice that the screen is filled with lens flares. Like there's these lens flares going all over the place. I honestly believe that there is absolutely nothing to see here other than like a lens flare that was coming down. I mean, look, if Kevin Feige was going to add Doctor Strange to the post-credit scene of WandaVision, Rob, you know what Kevin Feige would do? He would add Doctor Strange. he would just add Doctor Strange. That's what he would do. Not to mention, Doctor Strange doesn't have to travel through the woods, ladies and gentlemen. He's got his sling ring. He can just open the door, walk through. Hey, Wanda, what's up? My name's Doctor Strange. Anyway, this comes to us from the folks over at Screen Rant, who actually wrote something pretty observant. He writes, the shadow is way too indistinct for us to say for sure whether or not it's Doctor Strange. No. I'll give you a hand there. It's not Doctor Strange. Anyway, to say for sure whether it's Doctor Strange, but that would make sense. Scarlet Witch story is set to continue in a sequel film, after all. It is rather odd, though, because the future Source Supreme has other ways of getting from A to B, most notably the sling rings, which I was just talking about. He and the masters of the mystic arts used to travel through time and space. So, yeah, I go back to this image, and I'm like, this is what everybody's big proof is, that Doctor Strange is in it. Again, it's a combination for me of two things of why I don't buy into this. Number one, that ain't Doctor Strange. Number two, like we were saying earlier, Rob, if Kevin Feige was going to put Doctor Strange in the post-credit scene, he would put Doctor Strange in the post-credit scene. I mean,
Yes.
this anyway. So no, that ain't that. Look. 6 months from now, Kevin Feige may be doing a press tour talking about Doctor Strange 2 coming up, and he may say something along the lines of, it was really important for us to put Doctor Strange into that post-credit scene. Oh, hey, and you know what? If he does, he does. If he says that, great. But for now, Rob, I have zero belief that is, I mean, that's wanting to see something and then saying it's that something, and it's just not, as far as I can tell. Anyway, Rob, you had a chance to take a look at this thing. Was that them putting in Doctor Strange sneaking down the mountain and through the trees? I don't know. What did you think?
Dude, I saw this online, and then I went and looked at it on Disney Plus. And I'm like, first of all, who came up with this idea? Like, did somebody go back and watch the credits and think like this is magical thinking, John? Like it was pointed out, that isn't even how Doctor Strange travels. Like, unless you wanted, maybe he needed some fresh air and he wanted to travel through the mountains, and breathe in that beautiful, clean mountain air and all that. But that's not even how he gets from one place to another. Like, we've never seen this so far in the MCU at all. He uses the sling ring. Like, when he went and got Tony Stark at the beginning of Infinity War, it's not like he was flying through the chasms of New York City just because he wanted to get out and get some air. He's like, oh, look, I'm going to fly over to Central Park and I'm going to go talk to Tony Stark, who I've never met before. No, he used a sling ring and walked out through a spell. Tony Stark, I need to talk to you. He would do the same thing. It's such a weird idea. Like, I don't even know where somebody came up with this idea, because what evidence do you have? Like, why would you think that Doctor Strange, in what universe is he doing this? Like, it's not how he works. It'd be like having Superman walk somewhere. Superman flies. Doctor Strange doesn't.
Yeah, I've heard some people online say he was doing astral projection. Then why didn't he just astral project right into the house? Did he have to astral project and then walk around the woods and take a look around?
First of all, if it was Doctor Strange, don't you think you'd see him fly pretty definitively?
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't that be cool that there he was using his mystical powers to fly through the mountain air? I mean, that would be awesome. Why would they obscure it and make you think like, maybe that's Doctor? Like, it isn't Doctor. I don't see Doctor Strange there. It's so weird.
It is odd. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What did you think about this? I mean, they clearly did make some aesthetic changes to that final shot. There's no doubt about that. Absolutely, they did. But I don't know, guys. Did you see it? Did you see Benedict Cumberbatch hopscotching down through the mountains? Did you see something we didn't? Whatever you guys think about it, jump on down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down, let's now move on to main topic number 4. Rob, what is our 4th main topic today?
Well, John, this comes from Hang Lee, who says, greetings, John and Rob. So it looks like Fast 9 didn't become the first $100 million opener that some people thought that it would be, but it still hit a new post-pandemic high of $70 million, which is the strongest sign the theaters are continuing their return to normal. Should Universal be happy with this result? Thanks. Well, look, John, obviously this franchise has had highs of $1.5 billion. But this is the 9th, actually it's the 10th film in the franchise if you want to include Hobbs and Shaw, and you should. How many movie franchises go 10 films and make this much money out of the gate? I think they already made $300 million worldwide before it even opened here in the States. I think this is a pretty big win. It is continuing the uptick of movies at the theater. We're getting more and more people coming in. Obviously, we're still not open 100%. There's a lot of places that still have restrictions. We're lucky that in New York and LA, we don't. But I think this is a very good sign that people still want to go to the movies. And they are going to the movies, and it's making a lot of money. Is it disappointing for Universal? Look, all movies are disappointing for companies, because movie companies want their movies to gross even more than they did. I'm sure the $2 billion gross of Force Awakens still disappoints Disney, even though it shouldn't. But I mean, so maybe Universal could be a little bit disappointed. But look, This is the biggest opening in 17 months, 18 months if you go all the way back to Rise of Skywalker. And I would say this is a good thing. This is a great bellwether. It's a great indicator that movies are back. And I just want to say that Box Office Mojo says the summer block collective breath. After more than a year of delays, Universal's latest entry into the money-minting Fast and Furious cycle, F9, the Fast Saga, burned rubber out of the gate with a massive $70 million domestic debut. The opening not only left all previous pandemic-era box office records in the dust, but it also marked the biggest North American bow since 2019, Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. And I think, look, I don't think anybody would be disappointed with this gross in the era we're in right now. At any other time, probably would they have wanted 150 million plus? Sure. But for today, I'd say not bad.
Well, and you know what? You got to also look, I would put this in perspective. Number one, you cannot gloss over that last little fact there that that you just read from Box Office Mojo. This is the biggest opening weekend box office since 2019. This is the biggest box office opening since Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. And even though, if it wasn't for the pandemic that we're, in the recovery phase of now, would it have done a little bit better? Probably a little bit better, but not much. Rob, let's just go back to the last Fast and the Furious movie, Fast 8. That movie didn't make 150 million opening weekend. That movie made 98 million opening weekend. So really, when you all things considered, with the fact that we really haven't had a movie industry for a year, when you consider the fact that, honestly, the Fast series is a series that's in decline. I think most people acknowledge that, Fast 8 was a bit of a downtick. And of course, that also showed in the money they did or did not make. So that's all part of it there too. But you consider all that, the fact that Fast 8 was going on a bit of a downtick. It opened at $98 million. We haven't had a movie open bigger in over a year since The Rise of Skywalker. We're still in the pandemic recovery stage. You're coming off Fast 8. And this one is a terrible movie, but dear heavens, 70 million is nothing but a big win. This is a huge win. Absolutely, Universal should be thrilled with this at this point. And it's exciting because even though I didn't like this movie, I love that seeing the people were flying out to the theaters to go see it. Now, we'll see how big of a drop it takes in its second weekend. I'm predicting probably rather large. But it is awesome to see people flooding out to the theaters because this is a big screen kind of event, kind of movie. And they were going. And Rob, again, it just goes back to when we were talking about the results of Godzilla versus Kong versus, how well did Godzilla versus Kong really do? And you and I would put it into perspective and say, just look at Godzilla King of the Monsters. Godzilla versus Kong is basically doing the same numbers as Godzilla King of the Monsters. And Godzilla King of the Monsters wasn't in a pandemic. So that's pretty damn good. And I think this is a terrific result for this. I really do. Now, I also think Fast 10 is going to get made and it will take another decrease. This movie, Fast 9, won't make as much as like Fast 8 for all the reasons we talked about. I mean, there's still a lot of pandemic issues going on. It's not going to make 1.2 billion worldwide like Fast 8 did. But again, when you put it all into perspective, I mean, 70 million opening weekend when nothing else has come close since the pandemic broke out. I just don't see any other way how to mark this up other than an absolute, complete, unmitigated win for Universal. And I think they should be popping bottles right now. I really do. Anyway, guys, the question is for you. What do you think about this opening for Fast 9? 70 million is the biggest opening weekend since Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, and it's only about 18 million behind what Fast 8 opened with that didn't have to deal with a recovering movie theater system and a pandemic. I think it's a win. How do you guys see it? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With all that down and out of the way, let's now move on and start taking your live comments and questions. Once again, if you want to fire in a live comment or question to be read on the show, make sure it's appropriate for the show. Simply use the tip link that's down in the description of this video or enter it in manually at www.streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. Once again, you'll be getting your comment or question on the show if it's appropriate for the show. And of course, you'll be supporting the channel at the same time. All right, guys, with that down, let's get into those questions. And we're going to start things off here with Ismael Montoya, who writes, "Hey, John, what if Loki created an illusion with Sylvie when she fell asleep on the train? It appears that Loki becomes complacent and drunk right after this, where even the cello player knows the Asgardian song. Loki gets thrown off the train, etc. Maybe Loki has created an illusion over Sylvie to have her reveal the secrets of her past. Maybe hopping back into time can lead him into understanding how she fell into the TVA." Well, listen, Ismail, that is actually a theory I've had. I've said that theory for myself, that, it's a very awkward cut in that scene on the train where they're talking, and all of a sudden it cuts to her sleeping on the table and waking up suddenly. And Loki is back in his other clothes and singing Asgardian songs and all that kind of stuff. Now, I'm not so sure that that's the case, though. Because in a new preview, Rob, I don't know if you saw the new preview they just put up for the second episode. And in this new preview, you literally see Agent Mobius capturing Sylvie and Loki again. So, which is one of our theories about how they were going to get off, that Mobius is going to know that, hey, we got to look in an apocalypse. They were able to trace them there, blah. So I don't know, but I love that theory that Loki actually had her under an enchantment trying to find things out, but I don't know if that's the way it's going to go. By the way, Dragon 10 sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you, Dragon 10. I don't know, Rob, what do you think about that? Do you think we could find out in this next episode that Loki's actually had her under an illusion and an enchantment since they were on the train?
Well, I think that that's probably a good bet, because obviously this third episode was kind of odd in a way,
I
mean, and I think that might redeem it a bit. But we shall see. Anything's possible, but I would imagine things are not what they seem to be, wherever they're at.
All right.
Because they're left in a place where how do you escape from that? If it's not real, you don't have to escape from it.
That's true. All right. Next up, we've got Chuck the Mystery, who writes, and by the way, RM sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you, RM. Chuck the Mystery writes, "Hey, John and Rob, one of two. I wanted to revisit a discussion from a few months back as I was thinking about how many different streaming services I have. You had been talking about how the idea of each service having their own device for their individual streaming services, the Disney Magic Dongle, etc. At this point, where do you stand on the possibility of this, over under 40%, that each service has their own device by holiday of 2023? Yeah, so what Chuck is talking about is, a little while ago, Rob and I were having this discussion because, there's been drama between Amazon and HBO Max. There's been drama between YouTube TV and the Roku. There's been drama about different services. And, we've been seeing Google making some moves to really favor their own streaming services. We've seen Amazon, which is the second biggest platform in the world. The Amazon Fire Stick is the second biggest streaming platform in the world, right behind Roku. And they've been making moves to favor their Amazon stuff and, having some disputes with other streaming services. And the concept came up that, I won't be surprised if, Disney and HBO Max and others start to get tired of having to rely on somebody else's platform and just release their own devices. Like right now, if you want to watch Disney Plus, you got to have a Roku or an Amazon Fire Stick or a Chromecast or a smart TV or one of these devices, right? You can always log on to your web browser and watch too, I suppose. But that means Disney has to make deals with Amazon Fire Stick, and they got to make deals with the Google Chromecast, and they got to make deals with Roku. I really do believe, Rob, that a time is coming rather quickly that we are going to be in an age where all the major streaming services are also going to have their own devices, and then they're going to start to exclude each other's services. And we're going to be in a part where it's like, it's no longer just about hopping on my Chromecast to pick which app I want to use. Now it's going to be having to grab my TV remote to select which HDMI input. Because, I want to watch Disney Plus, I got to use the Disney Plus Magic Dongle that's connected to my TV. Now I want to watch HBO Max. Well, now I got to use the Discover Warner super duper thumb drive HDMI Max device to plug into the TV, and we're going to have to swap back and forth. And listen, I haven't seen anything to change my mind on that. I think by holiday of 2023, we're going to be in the middle of that process. I think we're going to see Disney, HBO Max all start to come out with their own devices. as well. I don't want it to. I think that's terrible, but it looks like that's the way it's going. Rob, what do you think? Do you think that is an inevitability, or do you think that can be avoided?
I think that that's probably a good bet. Because again, the whole point of streaming services that everybody has their own proprietary streaming services so they can control direct to consumer delivery. And why have a third party system? I mean, look, do I want to lose my Amazon Fire Stick because it's very convenient? No, but it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, do I think that's going to be cumbersome for the consumer? Yes, but I do think that ultimately they'll probably look, as long as they add functionality to these things. Like if I could get Disney Plus and somehow it would make Dolby Atmos and Dolby Vision and 4K streaming somehow easier and maybe up the quality of these things over the current pipelines we have to get streaming shows, I'd be all for it. And it would be kind of annoying to have these things for all of our streaming services, but I just see it as an inevitability.
Yeah, I hate it. I hate that, but I think it's coming. All right, next up, we've got Mark, 2021 writes, one of two. Hey, John, one of my favorite childhood movies is Small Soldiers, and as goofy as it is, I love it, and I can't see it ever happening. But do you think a sequel would work? Absolutely not. 23 years later, the toys power up and face a bigger threat. Another idea I've discussed with a few friends, and hear me out, a Small Soldier movie, but not about toys, but the actual character in their own world. Real life Chip Hazard versus Archer. It may sound ridiculous, but I would know, but would know to know. It sounds ridiculous, LOL, but would know to know your thoughts. Thanks. Well, I mean, look, Small Soldiers, and if I'm not mistaken, that was Tommy Lee Jones who did the lead voice in that one, if I'm not mistaken, Rob.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie to you. I know for some people like yourself, Mark, that's a really special, fond memory movie. I'm not going to lie, though. It's not to me. I never loved Small Soldiers. I never loved it, and it was never that popular. But again, that's not to take away your love for it. That's awesome that you love it that much. But it was never popular enough that I think you can go back and do a sequel 20 plus years later. Like maybe a reboot. Like today, I mean, with the technology, being where it is, a reboot today might actually work even better than it did back when they made the original. But a sequel at this point to a movie that a lot of people aren't even familiar with, a lot of people never saw, and a good chunk of people who did see it probably didn't even like it that much. I just don't see them ever doing a sequel for it. I don't know, Rob, what about you? Do you think we could see a, decades later Small Soldiers 2 come out?
Well, in this day and age, nothing would surprise me. But I can't see it. I think there's a bunch of other things that would probably get rebooted first. But what do I know?
Yeah, I think a reboot would work better. I just do.
Yeah, if they announce the Small Soldiers reboot tomorrow, I'd be like, okay.
Yeah, I'd be down for it. I think that, the cultural context change could be very interesting to it. I think it could be neat, but I just don't see them doing a sequel. All right, next up. Deuce Bigelow writes, hey, John, I started watching movie breakdowns and spoiler discussions when WandaVision came out. Now that's all I do. I be at work or in the car listening to spoiler discussions, and I catch myself agreeing and disagreeing with you out loud. It's bad. Big fan. Well, that's the idea, Deuce. We're not supposed to agree on everything. If that's the case, then there's no point in watching. We're supposed to agree on some things, disagree on others. That's the fun of it. That's the fun of being fans. And I'm glad you allow us to be a part of your day like that, Deuce. So thanks for that very much, man. All right, Miguel Zayn writes, hey, John, regarding the news that the creator of the Star Wars Acolyte show won't get writers who have seen a single Star Wars film. By the way, that's not true. That is not true, but we'll get to that in a second. Won't get people who've seen a single Star Wars film. I think this is an interesting way of tackling the franchise creatively. It's like, would I want Francis Ford Coppola to do a Marvel film? Hell yes. Okay, Rob, I don't know if you saw this, but there were a bunch of headlines going around that the woman who did Russian Dolls, which I know is a show you loved
it,
is doing this new Star Wars series, The Acolyte, which I am extremely excited about. Now, there have been these headlines going around that she said that she refuses to have anybody on her writing staff who has ever seen any of the Star Wars movies. I read the interview on Deadline. That is not what she said. What she did say was that it's not important that they've seen it. And she would actually love to have some people in her writing room who haven't, because they'll have a fresher, cleaner perspective. And that's all that was said. It was never that but it started running around that she said she has a rule. Nobody who's ever seen a Star Wars movie can be in my writer's room. That is not what she said remotely. And quite frankly, I think her approach is a great approach. It would be great to get people in there because, listen, again, I go back to this all the time. The guy who directed the Dungeons and Dragons movie, that horrible Dungeons and Dragons movie, is like the world's biggest fan of Dungeons and Dragons. World's biggest Dungeons and Dragons geek. Didn't make the movie good. And to have people come at it with a fresh approach and say, okay, get out of the dogma of just the hardcore Star Wars fan. Let's just tell a great story. And to ensure we get a great story, let's have a couple of voices in the room who are not coming from it from a point of view as a hardcore Star Wars fan, but just really good screenwriters, really good storytellers who know good story. They know and understand good story, and they're not going to let their predetermined and predisposed love of Star Wars cloud their idea about what's a really good story. To have a couple of those voices in the room, I think is an excellent idea. I'm not going to lie to you. I think that's an excellent idea. So you've got her, who is a massive Star Wars nut, and you're going to have some other writers in there who are deep into Star Wars lore, and then you're going to have a couple of voices who aren't, but they're just great storytellers and filmmakers. I think that sounds like a good recipe, to be honest with you. But anyway, Rob, you heard about all this. What do you think about the approach she's taking?
Well, it's not a unique approach. I mean, that was what Rick Berman used to say back when they were making Next Generation. He didn't want Star Trek fans. That's why people had to hide it. Like Ron Moore couldn't say how much he liked the original Star Trek. And I understand that approach because you don't want to be limited. You don't want your storytelling to be limited by what has come before. Like, oh, it has to be done this way. But on the other hand, I think, look, you are working in the Star Wars universe. And I think that a working knowledge of the Star Wars universe is helpful. I mean, I understand when you're creating stories out of the box, not being limited by canon can be a good thing. But I do think ultimately that we've certainly seen, I know we differ on this, but with Star Trek Discovery, there's not a lot of knowledge of the Star Trek franchise, yet they're making a show that is steeped in Star Trek lore. So frequently they're making these wholesale changes to lore that's existed for 55 years. And I wonder, it's a head scratcher. And if you're going to go back, and the Acolyte is about the Sith, I guess. And if you're going to delve into Sith mythology in general, I hope that there's somebody on the staff that certainly has a working knowledge of everything that's come before, whether you're talking about Knights of the Old Republic or Cad Bane or whatever. I mean, I think it's really important when working within Star Wars now. The lore is important, and it makes a difference, and your audience expects it. So to dismiss anyone who's a Star Wars fan seems a little dubious at this point in the process. But then again, I haven't seen the show yet.
Yeah, but again,
I
that's
love
not what
Russian
she's
Doll.
doing. She's not dismissing anybody who's watched Star Wars. She's saying, I want a couple of voices in the room that come from a different perspective
Sure.
and aren't hardcore things. And by the way, before everybody freaks out, don't forget that they're still going to have the Star Wars story group. They're still going to have Dave Filoni, who's going to be involved with the shows at this point. They're still going to have all this stuff that's there as well. So again, I think they're in pretty safe hands. I really do. I think they're in pretty safe hands. Anyway, let's see. What's next? Brandon writes, hey, man, not really a question, but more of a statement. Don't you hate those people who say that just because you don't like a certain movie, that your taste in movies is trash? Just got in an argument with someone over this. What are your thoughts? Oh, yeah. Well, listen, anybody who says that, you can instantly identify that they don't know the first thing about movies. It's just that simple. Because if you know the first thing about movies, you know that we all have unique experiences with different movies. And when somebody says you have no taste in movies, what they're actually saying is my taste is the standard.
Right.
If I like something, I'm the measure about what good taste is. And if your opinion on something differs from mine, then you have bad taste. To me, that automatically is a red flag that that person has no idea what movies are about, and they haven't got the slightest clue about what movies actually are. So I would just ignore them. You just delete them out of your memory and don't even worry about them and move on. All right, next up. Ken Caniff writes, "Hey, John. I want to say I love your open spoiler discussions and all the fan theories. Thank you so much. I have a lot of fun doing those. Never cared until WandaVision. I watch your old movie reviews, and now when a movie comes out, I want to know what you think. Also, you speak very clear, and I don't. I'm jealous." Well, thank you so much, Ken. That is actually one of the nicest compliments somebody has ever said to me. Because again, you know, Rob, I often tell people our job is not to tell you what to think, and our job is not to say what you agree with. Our job is to tell you what we thought of something and make sure we communicate what we thought in such a way, and hopefully in an effective way, that it helps you sharpen what your own opinion is. So hopefully, you know, if I like something, if I properly explain why I like something, it should help you sharpen why you didn't like it, or help you sharpen why you did. Either way. Right? That's the whole goal of what we do. So thank you for that, Ken. I take that as a really high compliment. So thank you very much. I appreciate it a lot, man. All right. Next up. Where are we at here? Claire Danko writes, "Wanda's kids are on one of the timelines that's caused by a Nexus event, and she's a Nexus being, but doesn't know what she did. Renslayer, that's Ravonna, could be a big bad by herself. Could be. Miss Minutes has more time on her hands than we realize. She might be a whole villain." I suppose that's possible. Again, I don't think there was a Nexus event, because if in WandaVision, if there had been a Nexus event, the TVA would have showed up and taken Wanda away. I mean, according to what we've seen so far.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, the TVA would have popped up and taken her away. I still believe that, and Rob, by the way, since we were going back to watch that end credit scene of WandaVision to see the Doctor Strange coming through the woods, watched it again. And when she's at the book and she hears her voice, her kids' voices, I watched it again. It's just a replay of the clip of earlier in the show when her kids were out in the street and yelling, "Mom, help, please." It's just the rewind of that. I think that's just her remembering that. It didn't strike me at all. Now, I don't know that. Nobody from Marvel has told me that's the case. I'm speculating as a fan, just like the rest of you guys are. But again, it's the same audio track. They just took the audio from that and then brought it into that scene as well. So I don't see that. So no, I don't think she's a Nexus event. She's a Nexus being. We'll find out what that means later on. But again, if she had created a Nexus event, the TVA would have showed up. And remember, magic doesn't affect anything with the TVA where they are, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect them. So I don't know, Rob, what's your interpretation of that? How do you see when you look at Claire's question there?
Well, I mean, you know, all of this is very iterative. You know, the Marvel universe is constantly shifting and changing, and they're building it as they go. But they also, I mean, I think they do think about these things. I think that they're playing the long game. They always have. And I think that we're going to see, you know, they even used the word Nexus in WandaVision in one of those commercials. And they never explained really what a Nexus being was in WandaVision. So they were bringing that up. They were showing it to us because they have this long sort of the way they did the Infinity Saga was 23 movies, but this seems to be a miniseries within a miniseries kind of a thing. And I think they've already figured all this out. I mean, could Wanda not have even known what she's done? Sure. Creating a different timeline, but maybe that's what she was supposed to do because it's all playing into whatever is unfolding right now. And I just think they know what they're doing, you know, and I think it's whatever's happening is already planned out. They know where they're going to go. They know where they're going in Doctor Strange. We're going to see it unfold further in Spider-Man Far From Home. And I think that as Loki moves on, it's going to be even more clear because they've painted themselves into a corner that I can't imagine that they don't know the way out of it. Because they know that viewers are puzzling over every one of these things, and they better know where they're going. Otherwise, it's all going to collapse in on itself.
Yes, sir. Yes, it is. All right, let's move on to the next one here. Ryan Lohner writes, Justin Lin is watching Rise of Skywalker and suddenly sits bolt upright. I had no idea you could just bring dead characters back to life with no explanation. Guys, I know how to fix the whole Han thing. That's basically it. For those of you who don't know, they bring back Han. Of course, you saw it in the trailers. They bring back Han in F9. And how do they bring him back? How did he survive? We don't know. They don't know. Actually, Rob, I don't know if you've seen it. I love those pitch meeting videos that are on there. The guy just put out his Fast 9 pitch meeting video, and it is so bang on the money. And they literally talk about that part about, so wait a minute, so how is Han alive? I don't know. And they don't bother having to figure it. It's just like the Emperor situation in Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. It's totally and utterly ridiculous. Anyway, next up, Diego writes, just watched the new Shang-Chi trailer, and I gotta say that seeing Abomination randomly show up, let alone him fighting Wong of all people, really made my jaw drop. I love Simu Liu in Kim's Convenience and stoked for him to enter the MCU. Yeah, listen, Rob, I loved him in Kim's Convenience. Absolutely loved him in that, but I have never seen him in anything other than that. So right now, I don't know if he's a great actor or not. I've only seen him in one thing. I saw him in like seasons worth of that one thing, but still, it's only one role I've ever seen him play. But yeah, Rob, as I went back and watched that Shang-Chi trailer again, because at some point you see Shang-Chi in that same ring that Abomination and Wong are fighting in. So clearly this like Mortal Kombat tournament thing plays probably pretty prominently in this movie because we see him himself pop in there. But Rob, you've now had a couple of days to ruminate on this Shang-Chi trailer. Are you still excited about it? Did you still like it? Because I'm telling you, I watched it again yesterday with Ann, and I'm like, I like it even better now.
Oh my God, are you kidding? I mean, I love it. And, my man, Tony Leung, front and center as Shang-Chi's father. I can't wait to see this movie. I think it looks really terrific. And again, it's Marvel doing a different genre of film. And I love it. I mean, I'm predisposed to liking this kind of subject matter, but I think it looks great. What's not to love? I really like that we're going to get a lot of history. We're going to get a lot of, it's just expanding part of the Marvel universe we've never seen before. And I'd like to think that it's in the same universe as Crazy Rich Asians is. That some of the characters there's going to be crossover. And, maybe we find out that Michelle Yeoh she's playing the same character.
That would be awesome. I'd be in for that. God, I love Michelle Yeoh. Okay, next up.
I do.
Suthius writes, the science nerd in me really wants to know exactly how time flows in the pocket universe of the TVA. Sylvie said she had to go back hundreds of years in C20's memories before she worked for the TVA, but the memories shown looked very modern. I must know. I don't recall her saying she had to go back hundreds of years in that girl's memory, because obviously that girl's memories were very recent. They looked very modern. So I'd have to go back and hear her say that. But I mean, if that girl is just another variant from a modern timeline, then she can't go back hundreds of years into her memory. So I don't know. Do you remember her saying she had to go back? I don't remember.
I mean, and even if it is hundreds of years, they did look like they were going to, that they're in some place that's more modern, but I don't know. I mean, 100 years, they could be anywhere, who knows?
All right. Next up, we got McDavid Deserves Better, who writes, forgive me, I've diagnosed the Leafs. Observe the top 50 players of all time. Subjectively, 0 are Leafs. I don't agree with that. It's an anomaly that a 104-year-old franchise hasn't had anyone at the level of Iginla or Sakic. I would take Matt Sundin over Iginla. I mean, I love Iginla and Joe Sakic. I love them both very, very much. Good Canadian kids. But I would honestly take Matt Sundin over either of those. Anyway, Matthews is already the best Leaf ever by Lance. I completely disagree. Matthews is great, and he's had a couple of great years, but he's not Daryl Sittler yet. Let's slow your roll a bit. He's no Daryl Sittler yet. He's no Matt Sundin yet. So I wouldn't go. By the way, probably the only significant NHL record that Wayne Gretzky doesn't own is the all-time record for most points in an NHL game was by a Toronto Maple Leaf, Rob. Most points ever in an NHL game, the record is held by a Toronto Maple Leaf. and that is the great Darryl Sittler. Number 27, captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs. He holds that record, and it's a record that I will tell you right now will never be broken.
John, but you know what? Doesn't that beg the question? The Toronto Maple Leafs, where's their championship cup? If they made that record, where's the championship cup, John?
Well, you have to go back to the 60s for that, Rob. I'll do you one better.
I just thought I'd rub it in.
They haven't won a playoff game or a playoff series in 18 years now. They haven't won a playoff series in 18 years. Never been to the Stanley Cup in my lifetime. Haven't even won a playoff series in almost 18 years. Just got to remind myself of that. Anyway, next up, Cobra Commander writes, Fast 9 had everything. Cars, beautiful women, action, and above all, family. It was such bullshit. My kids and I had an amazing experience. That is awesome that you had a great time, though. Being back at the movies, my cinema was full, unlike Tenet on its opening week. I had the theater to myself. Fast saga will continue. Oh, absolutely. There's going to be a Fast 10, no doubt. And I think, despite what they say, I think there's going to be a Fast 11 and a Fast 12 and a Hobbs and Shaw 2, 3, and 4. They're definitely going to continue. Absolutely. I just thought the movie was absolute drivel. But if you had a great time, that's the important thing. And I'm glad you had fun going back to theaters, and it's great to see these theaters filling back up again. By the way, Luis Colon sends in a super chat badge in live chat. Thank you, Luis. Appreciate that, man. All right, next up. Fast 10... Fast 10 your seat belts. I get it. Nice username there. Writes in, say what you want. Say what you want about Fast and Furious. They definitely get butts in the seat. Absolutely they do. The theater looked like it did pre-pandemic. I enjoyed the movie and was fully entertained. Well, I'm a sucker for these kinds of movies, and now I cannot wait to see Fast 10. And I'm glad you had a good time. I wish I had a good time. I wanted to like the film. I was so excited for the movie, and to me, it was just absolute awful garbage. But you had a good time. That's the important thing, and I'm glad you had fun, man. All right, next up. Andy Hong writes, 1 of 4. Man of Steel film does something. Superman and Lois showrunners and writers. Write that down. I think I can definitely say that whoever runs Superman and Lois must also be a fan of Man of Steel or have been inspired to an extent. There are a lot of clear similarities between this show and Man of Steel. I don't see them, especially in the latest episode that came out this week that I kept half expecting Hans Zimmer's score to be played. I was honestly brought to tears a bit by how much I love the show and the heart and hope that it carries. I remember just being disgusted at the announcement of this show and expected myself to warily check it out and its pathetic Superman, even though I thought Tyler Hoechlin was fine in the role. I've been feeling lately with the rest of the Arrowverse. I now get excited for the next episode and scream for joy every delicious second it's on. I hope this show continues being this great and never crosses over with those other Arrowverse shows because they suck. Well, yeah, listen, we've talked a lot lately about this new Superman and Lois show because I had no interest in that show whatsoever, and now I love it. Now, as far as your observation that you see a lot of similarities between Man of Steel and this, I don't, outside of what you would expect to see similarities because they're both about Superman. I think it's a very unique show. I think it's very unique and different in the pantheon, not just of other things that that CW has done, but I think it's also very unique in the pantheon of what all other Superman stuff has done. And I have been really enjoying it. And they've been putting the focus on the things that actually challenge Superman. Being a dad, his family, being a husband, the moral choices that he has to face. And I like that, unlike the other areas of the Arrowverse, this show is giving Superman his due. He is Earth's champion. He is the mightiest being on Earth. He is the ultimate superhero. And I love that they've been doing that with the character and with all the other elements. I've been loving it, Hong. So even though I don't agree with you that I see a lot of similarities to Man of Steel, which I obviously love, but I agree with you, man. This show is just something that's really got me excited for this iteration. And I agree with you. I hope they never cross him over with any of the other CW stuff, but we'll see how they go. All right, next up. Where are we at here? Andy Hong also writes, 1 of 2. And the second to last episode of Lucifer Season 5B was devastating. Dan was one of my favorite characters. Trixie showing up at the hospital and being in denial was sad enough, but it really hit deep when she asked Lucifer what happened because she knew he would never lie. And and that his word would confirm everything. Lucifer telling her the truth was so emotionally powerful and soul-crushing. The scene was so well written and even better executed. I'm also going to miss Lucifer and Dan's banters. I'll tell you what, Rob, I don't think you watch Lucifer, or no, I can't remember. Do you watch Lucifer?
I've watched some. I mean, I like the show. I haven't watched all of it like you have, and I haven't watched any of it since it's been on Netflix.
Okay, so little spoiler warning, but I mean, it's been out now for a while. I did not see it coming. I did not see them killing off Dan. I did not see that coming. It hit me like a complete, utter surprise. And you're right. That scene in the hospital when Trixie comes in, and by the way, that young girl, that little girl actress, is so, like, just so good in that role. But it was devastating. It was absolutely devastating, and it was really, really well done. All right, next up, where are we at here? We are at Andy Hong also writes in, Olive Garden missed a gigantic opportunity to hire Vin Diesel as their spokesperson in the commercials years ago. Diesel could have easily delivered the line, "When you're here, you're family." By the way, thank you so much for reading all of our tips. You're awesome. Well, I mean, yeah, you could do that. Although, I don't know if you could have gotten Vin Diesel to do that. Not to mention, if he had done something in a commercial, I think that you would have had to have done more if you're Olive Garden to get Vin Diesel, because that's clearly a reference to the movies. So now you would have also had to have entered into a deal with Universal. And Universal would have had to have approved that. Because if Vin Diesel's going to go on there and kind of say something Fast and the Furious-ish, then you can't just get him to do it. You got to make a deal and pay money to Universal. It's probably something that was probably cost prohibitive. It probably would have been ultimately really cost prohibitive. All right, next up, Sam Brown writes, "Hey, John, I've been watching for years now. Thank you so much, Sam. Now I know you have an iPad Pro. I do, and I love it. I just graduated high school, and I was wondering if you'd recommend I buy one to use in college. Thank you so much." All right, honestly, here's the thing. I do have the brand new iPad Pro 12.9 inch with the M1 chip in it. It's great. I love it. But if you're going to college, I would very much recommend the new MacBook Air with the M1 chip in it. It is stupidly powerful. Like, for what it is, for under $1,000, what you get in the MacBook Pro, because I picked one up myself. I picked up a MacBook Air with the M1 chip in it, and I adore it. Now, I have lots of different types of computers and machines. I have an Android phone. My main desktop computer that I use here is a PC. I have a MacBook Air. I have iPads. I mean, I use all different types of technology from different companies. But honestly, you'll be spending half the money by getting a MacBook Air. It's actually lighter. By the time, Rob, you add the keyboard and everything to the iPad Pro, it's heavier than the MacBook Air is. So I would honestly recommend, for around $1,000 or less, you get that new MacBook Air. You'll love it. You'll absolutely love it. So I would recommend that, and you'll save a lot of money. You'll save a lot of money. So that would be my recommendation. All right. Thanks for writing in, and best of luck to you, Sam. All right. Next up, Brian's Nissan Skyline writes, "Dominic 1968 Dodge Charger with big-ass magnets is my favorite Fast and the Furious car. Han drives a 2020 Toyota Supra SRT Hellcats driving through the jungle in Central America, a supercharged Mustang GT 350, Letty's 1969 Chevy. What more could you ask for?" I don't know, a good movie? I mean, that's great that you have all those cars. That's fantastic. Yay! Maybe they could have made a good movie. I don't know. I mean, Rob, I just, like, you, me, and our buddy Cliff and Ann, we went to go see Fast and Furious 9 over a month ago. Isn't that weird that the movie just came out? We saw it over a month ago. And I remember when it was done, I still remember all of us looking at each other and it's like, is it just me, or was that like one of the most awful things I've ever seen? I mean, I just couldn't, and none of us liked it. And I don't know, when you reflect back now, has your mind changed on it at all, or are you still feeling pretty disappointed by it?
I'm still feeling disappointed.
But Rob, they had all those cars. Doesn't all those cars make up for it?
No.
Nope. No, it doesn't. Oh, well. But hey, listen, again, it's all subjective. Just because some people don't like something doesn't mean you shouldn't like something. If you liked it, that's awesome. All right, we move on now. Ben Rayner writes, John, part one. Hey, John, just watching your Loki companion video, and Superman and Lois came up. You said episode 10 was the finale. Oh, I thought it was the finale. However, there are 5 more episodes. This week's was episode 11, which I saw, and now we have a break until July 13th. Yep, I'm all up to date on that now. Once July 13th, Superman and Lois will finish with 4 more episodes over the next 4 weeks. And side note, episode 11 is my favorite of the season. Wasn't my favorite. I liked it very much, but it wasn't my favorite. Won't spoil it for you, but it's great to me. So good news. You have 5 more Superman episodes left to watch. Bring on the Filthy. Yes, and I am looking forward to that, Ben, very, very much. All right, Chris Miner writes, hey, John, episode 3 of Loki was the worst of the MCU shows. I agree. Which Disney Plus episode is worse? Episode 3 of Loki or episode 5 of season 1 of Mandalorian where they stay on Tatooine? Episode 5 of season 1 of Mandalorian was worse. That episode was terrible. Like, I was very disappointed in Loki episode 3, but I didn't hate it. Like, it has some definite up parts in it. It definitely has some strong points to it. But to me, it was the worst of the 18 episodes of MCU Disney Plus content we've got so far. 9 episodes of WandaVision, 6 episodes of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and now 3 episodes of Loki. I think it's the weakest of that. But if I had to compare that to the weakest episode of Mandalorian yet, which is that one episode 5 when they were on Tatooine. Oh, that's the worst one. I hated that episode. I thought that was just, look, everybody, remember Tatooine? Oh, look, everybody, it's the same cantina. I mean, it was just, yeah, we get it. It was lame. It was awful. So I would say that, yes, Loki episode 3 is the worst of the MCU, but I would say it's still better than episode 5 of Mandalorian season 1. I've really liked everything else from Mandalorian, but that one episode, Rob, if you had to guess, if you had to say, which one did you like less? Loki episode 3 or Mandalorian season 1, episode 5?
Well, okay, here's the thing. I really enjoyed looking at Loki episode season, the third episode, because it was beautiful. And while it seemed to, I didn't think it was bad. I just thought it was a complete 180 from the previous 2 episodes. And it seemed like it was a weird, strange interlude that didn't make a whole lot of sense based on what they'd set up already. Because it certainly didn't tell us why the bombs were sent through the doorways at the end of episode 2. And I felt like this wasn't even a filler episode. This was like, I don't care what's happening in this episode. But it was beautiful to watch.
Let me ask you this.
I think I liked it more than the Tatooine episode because just going to Tatooine, I'm just like, who cares? Like, I've been here before. Why are we here?
Yeah.
Whereas with the Loki episode, I was more like, why are we here in a different way? But I just like looking at it.
Let me tell you something that I said about episode 3 of Loki, and tell me if you agree. To me, in Loki episode 3, there was only one important thing communicated. That the TVA agents are not created by the Timekeepers, but rather they are themselves variants who've been brought in to work for the TVA. I said this. If I had a buddy of mine come to me and say, hey, John, I've seen Loki's episode 1 and 2, but I haven't seen 3 yet. Do I need to see episode 3 before watching episode 4? I would say no. All you need to know is this. The TVA agents are actually variants. If you can tell somebody that they can completely skip an episode by giving them one sentence of information, that's not a good episode. That's not a well done episode. Because really, I mean, and I believe that's, so tell me if you agree with that, Rob, that you could tell somebody that they could absolutely skip episode 3 if all you told them was TVA agents are actually variants not created by the Timekeepers. Do you agree with that statement that somebody could then skip 3, or do you think there was other really important, relevant information in 3 that you would have to have in order to move on to episode 4? How do you feel?
Well, I think we're going to know once we see episode 4. I think right now I'm curious. I'm like, where are they going with this? And obviously in a 6-episode show, I think whatever we're going to see has relevance to what's coming. So I would not want to say skip an episode until I've seen the whole series.
Right. Okay. We move on now. Jay Bling writes, After seeing Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard, my first thought was that we need to retire the phrase movie with X stars writes itself. Oh, I've never believed that. I've never believed that. And you know what? It's unfortunate that I haven't had a chance to see Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard yet. Obviously, like the last few days, I've been dealing with some dental issues and been a little bit loopy and infection and fevers and whatever. So I haven't had a chance to see it yet, but it's got Ryan Reynolds, one of my favorite stars. But yeah, I'm not hearing great things, Jay Bling. I am unfortunately not hearing great things, and that seems to be what you're alluding to. So I am not hearing great things, and I'm going to watch it this week. But again, my situation has not allowed me to see it yet, but I will watch it this week, and then I will give it my thoughts. But I'm going to keep high hopes because everybody loves Samuel L. Jackson, and I obviously, Ryan Reynolds is one of my favorite movie stars in the world, good Canadian kid. So we'll see how that all goes. Thanks for writing in, Jay Bling. Next up, Russell Amador writes, "Hey, John, it looks like this evening we'll be seeing Fast 10. I'm kind of nervous about the over-the-top action scenes. Wait, the TVA should go back to the first cringe action moment and reset the timeline for the Fast franchise. They need to make that a priority." There you go. You just found a way to create a totally shared cinematic universe between Fast and the Furious and, of course, the MCU. The problem is, of course, Dominic Toretto would be way too overpowered. Dominic Toretto would come in. If Vin Diesel was producing, Dom would beat up Thor, and then he'd beat up Hulk, and then he'd take out Thanos, and then he'd go and beat up Galactus, and, with nothing but a car wrench, I suppose. But that's probably how it would go. You've created the ultimate crossover, Russell. And by the way, the Everything Nerd sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you, Everything Nerd. I appreciate that, man. All right, next up. Sir Ivan Bennett writes, "Hey, John. Perhaps I misspoke when I talked about the media being down on Luca. What I meant to say is that a number of prominent YouTube reviewers thought it was so-so. I thought it was so-so. I take that back. I thought it was good. Stuckman gave it a C. Grace Randolph called it subpar for Pixar. IGN says it has a lack of depth and character development. I agree with that. The point I was trying to make was, yeah, it's not Coco or Soul. But that's fine. It's good for what it is. Simple, warm adventure for kids, not adults. Thanks for hearing me out. Keep up the good work." Okay, so what Sir Ivan Bennett's talking about here is that the other day he wrote in, and clearly he mistyped it, but he wrote in, why is the media bashing on Coco? And I went, the media bashing on Coco? Hold on a second here. Luca. I don't think the media's bashing on Coco. That's right. So, and I brought up the screen. I said, wait a minute. Like, Luca's got a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. What? It's got like a 90%. How are you saying that the media is bashing on Coco? Now, look, here's the thing, Sir Ivan. The reality is, every movie, since films are subjective, you're going to find anybody saying something terrible about any movie. Like, whenever I bring up The Godfather, inevitably some comments will fire in, "The Godfather's overrated." Okay. And that's how some people feel. And there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously, it's kind of universally believed, if not the greatest movies of all time, then up there. But it's all subjective. So, dude, here's the thing. You're going to find any movie that you love, you're going to be able to find somebody somewhere that says it's not that good. You got to not worry about that. I mean, so what? What did Chris Stuckman say? Stuckman said he gave it a C. Okay, so what? Listen, Chris, I don't agree with a lot of Chris's opinions on movies, but that's not agreeing with Chris's opinions on movies is not what makes Chris a good YouTuber. Chris is really good and effective at communicating why he felt the way he felt about it. And again, that's the job, really. There are too many bad YouTubers out there who believe either A, it's their job to say things the audience agrees with, or B, feels it's their job to convince the audience to agree with them. That's not what somebody in our space's job is. Our job is not to say what you agree with or to convince you to agree with us. It's to clearly explain why I feel the way I feel, and hopefully my explanation about why I feel the way I feel helps you sharpen your own opinion. So just because Chris didn't like it, guess what? You're just going to have to accept that when he watched it, it didn't have that great of an effect on him. That when IGN says, what did you say IGN says? That when IGN says It has a lack of depth in character development. I personally agree with that. I think IGN is correct with that. Look, to me, Luca was a good film. I liked it. But I do believe it was one of the weaker Pixar films. Still good. Still a thumbs up. In the world of thumbs up and thumbs down, Rob, to me, Luca is a thumbs up movie. I enjoyed it. But it didn't have that Pixar magic to me that a lot of others did. It just was way more surface. No pun intended. It was way more surface and just, it felt like a DreamWorks animated movie more than a Pixar movie. But again, it was still good. Did you ever get around to watching Luca yourself, Rob?
I have not seen it yet, but it looks great to me.
I mean, you should check it. I mean, it's for free. Obviously, it's on Disney Plus now.
Well, I mean, I love the look of it, and I love, the two. It's, isn't it two brothers or friends in Italy, and they get involved with mystical beings from the water. I don't know, but it looks right up my alley.
All right, next up, we're gonna go to Jason Espinoza, who writes, dating advice from John Dr. Love Campea. Not dinner then a movie. Movie, then dinner. Key, absolutely key, and very important to understanding how to properly do dating. All right. Bond over the shared experience during the meal, or just tell her that you got screen time wrong and take her back to your place. Don't hate the playa, hate the game. Of course, that's what happened to me. For those of you who don't know, first of all, my number one rule about dating when it comes to movies is don't do dinner then the movie. Not for a first date. Not for a first date. For your first date, you do movie, then the dinner. Because you go to the movie, because you don't want to end the date sitting quietly beside each other, right? What you want to do for a first date is you go to the movie first. Now you have a shared experience. And so when you go to dinner afterwards or drinks afterwards, now you have a starting point of reference for a shared experience you just had. Believe me, guys, it's the way to go. Now, of course, Anne and I was going to take her to a movie on our first date, and I got the screening time wrong. And so we ended up going back to my place to watch 30 Days of Night. And I'd say that worked out pretty well, too, because here we are over 10 years later, and we're still married. All right. Thanks for that, Jason. Next up, BK Dan writes, John, 4DX in Regal. There is one in Irvine, California. That's a bit of a drive for me. Just thought I'd bring it to your attention that you can do 4DX. There's one about 17 miles from me. You will lose your mind in a good way about 25 miles from Riverside. Yeah, I don't like driving that far to go to a movie. But Rob, this has come up a bit lately. A lot of people writing in about the 4DX experience at Cinemarks. And I've told people, I don't even think I've ever been to a Cinemark theater. Not because I don't like Cinemark. I've never had one right around me. That's all. But I've been hearing good things about the 4DX. Have you frequented Cinemark theaters, or have you ever gone to one of the 4DX screenings? And what's your experience been like?
I have not. I have not, and I'm not in any hurry necessarily to do that. I know a lot of people like those things, but to me, it's more. And look, this is me having never done it, but the gimmicky aspects of it don't appeal to me.
Right. Okay.
I'd rather see something in Dolby Atmos on a laser projection screen with, great picture and great sound. I don't, I want to feel it, but not necessarily have it rumble my seat.
Right. Now Yellow in the live chat is saying, John, but you drove to Vegas for New Mutants. Yes, because I had no other options. I hadn't been to a movie in 6 months. There was no other theater around me showing it because theaters in California were still closed. If I was going to see New Mutants, I was going to have to drive to Vegas to go see it, which I did. I got in the car, me and my buddy Soul. We got in the car. We made the 3.5 hour drive to Vegas, watched New Mutants, got back in the car, turned around, and drove 3.5 hours back. But again, I had no other options. That was the only way I was going to be able to see a movie. All right. Next up, we've got Ryan Loner, who writes, I can't wait to see how Disney tries to weasel out of Loki now being explicitly, canonically bisexual. Let's not pretend we don't all know that that's coming. Well, here's the thing, Ryan. You're acting like Disney's not the one who put it in the first place. If Disney wanted to weasel out of Loki now being explicitly bisexual, then they never would have put that in the show in the first place. Why would they put it in if they just want to try to weasel out of it later? That makes no sense. You're acting as if Disney has no control over the Loki show and somebody else has control over it, and they're going to have to deal with it later. If Disney didn't want it to be, explicitly stated in the show that Loki is bisexual, then if they don't want him to be that, they never would have allowed that to be said in it, and yet they did. So I don't think they'll try to weasel out of it later, since they're the ones who approved it being in the first place. So I don't see how that makes much sense, but that's just my take on it. All right, next up. Grizzlies writes, so cool. We now have 2 trailers for ShangChi, but still nothing for Spider-Man No Way Home. Spider-Man No Way Home doesn't come out for 6 months. Why would we have a trailer for Spider-Man No Way Home? It doesn't come out for 6 months. ShangChi comes out in what, September? Early September?
Yeah.
So we're only 3 months from that coming out. Anyway, if we get one more Eternals trailer before our first Spidey trailer, I'm convinced there won't be a trailer for No Way Home until November. Listen, no, Grizzlies, no. Okay, look, sit back, take a deep breath. Spider-Man No Way Home is still 6 months away. All right. Dune is coming out almost 2 months, at least a month and a half before it. So if we get another trailer for Dune, that makes sense. And Shang-Chi comes out in 3 months. So yeah, just take a deep breath. We will absolutely get Spider-Man No Way Home trailers before November. I actually wouldn't be shocked if we get one in July. I'm guessing we're going to get one in July. I don't know that. I'm just guessing, but I'm going to guess we'll probably get our first one sometime in July, sometime in the next 4 weeks or so, maybe 5-6 weeks. We'll get one, but yeah, the movie is still half a year away. There's no need to rush it. I don't know, Rob, do you think it's odd that we haven't got a Spider-Man No Way Home trailer yet? I mean, it's very possible they could attach one to Black Widow when it comes out next week, I suppose, but I don't know. What do you think?
Don't forget, we got Black Widow, Shang-Chi, and the Eternals coming out. Do you think that they want to move in on the marketing of these movies? No, I mean, let's say I think Spider-Man might overshadow. Who knows? But I think, like you said, we know Spider-Man's coming out. We have 3 more Marvel movies to come out before then, and that's what they're going to be marketing. So we might get a Spider-Man trailer, but. We got, not only that, we got the What If show coming out. You got Hawkeye coming out. You got Miss Marvel coming out. Spider-Man literally comes out at the end of this year. And there's a lot of water under the bridge to get to before we get to Spider-Man.
Yep, absolutely. And again, it's 6 months away, so don't worry about it. If we get 3 months out, if we get into September, and we still have had no Spider-Man, okay, at that point, maybe we can start going, hey, what's going on with the Spider? But right now it's still 6 months out, so I wouldn't worry about it at all. Don't worry about it yet. All right, next up. Josh Mickle writes, hello, John. It's been a while, but I just wanted to say keep up the great work. Thank you so much. And I still remember, because of your dating advice, see movie first, then dinner after. I applied that rule in 2014. Me and my wife are still happily married today. See? Listen to Dr. Love, ladies and gentlemen. I want to know your opinion. I recently got a Mac Mini and 2 HD monitors, only costing me less than $1,000 for me to do my daily video editing work. I want to know if there is computer/equipment you'd recommend for somebody in our industry starting out. Okay, well, that's actually a huge question, Josh. And yeah, listen, by the way, Rob, I mean, the new Mac Minis, they got the M1 chips in there. They're also fantastic. And you're right. You can get 2 monitors, the Mac Mini, the whole thing for like $1,000. That's incredible. And the stuff you can do. Now, is my computer more powerful than that? Yes, but my computer also clocked in at around $3,000. So, I mean, actually, when you take all that, it's probably closer to $4,000, really. So this is a computer that match. Now, as far as other equipment, listen, I don't know the specific things that you're doing for your video work. I don't know what they are. I would say go to a video I did a little while ago. Just search YouTube for John Campea, How to YouTube. I did a 2-hour live stream recently just talking about different gear and equipment and things you can do and have. So I would say go to that video and check that out. But yeah, man, listen, if you've got that Mac Mini, it's crazy because that like $700 Mac Mini, Rob, outpaces like a $7,000 Mac Pro in some ways. It's crazy how powerful these computers are now. And as a matter of fact, when the new M1X chip comes out, I'm considering getting an Apple desktop as well. I'm considering retiring out my PC desktop and switching to Macs once the new MX or the M2 chips come. So, Rob, I know you're a Mac guy. Like my desktop
I
is
am
a
a Mac
PC.
guy.
Your desktop that you edit on, do all your work on, is a Mac. Have you been like checking out these new M1 things they've had out there?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'd love to do that. I mean, I'm working on an iMac Pro that's pretty souped up for editing, and I mean, it's a 5-figure computer, and I'm just like, do I want to get a new one already? And the answer to that is yes. But it really you have to pick your device based on your needs.
Yes.
And I picked a device specifically to edit feature films on, and that's what I based. You don't need that much power or storage if you're editing, say, videos for YouTube or things like that. But the new computers. I mean, every year computers are getting better and faster. You just have to pick your battles and what is it you're going to use it for, and tailor your needs that way. Find out, buy the computer based on your needs. That's always what you do, and give yourself leeway to grow.
Yeah, and understand that when it comes between like whether you want a Windows environment or a Mac OS environment, it all depends on your own personality and what clicks with you better. And really, the reality is we live in a world right now where you can get some fantastic PCs, fantastic Apple devices. There's a lot of good choice out there, and a lot of it's going to come down to, as Rob just said, what are your specific needs? And then number two, just what kind of clicks with you a little bit better. And also, big thing is, are you a hardcore PC gamer? If you are a hardcore PC gamer, you're going to want a PC. But if you're a big console gamer or whatever, then it doesn't matter. So that's the only kind of differentiating factor there, I would say. All right, next up. Adam writes, and he tips in like $20. Thank you, Adam, for supporting our channel on that level, man. Adam writes, hey, team. You often talk about the UFC, but do you like boxing? I'm not a big boxing fan. I'll tell you why in a second. If so, are you interested in the Manny Pacquiao versus Errol Spence fight pay-per-view? Well, I have to because my family is Filipino. So I am required by family law, Rob, to be interested in the Manny Pacquiao fight. But yes,
of course you are.
I'm definitely going to be interested in the Manny Pacquiao fight. Best wishes from the UK, where we hope to have a meet and greet one day. I hope to have a John Campea Show meet and greet in the UK one day, Adam, very, very much. I am not a big boxing fan. And one of the big reasons, I've never been a huge boxing fan. Never been huge into it. But I've been, I've been interested in boxing, and I've checked out boxing matches and stuff like that. But I'll tell you what really turned me off boxing a couple of years ago, which was, there were two very big fights. Part 1 and part 2, Canelo versus Triple G. And that to me epitomized the joke that boxing is. Triple G clearly won both of those fights. He clearly won both those fights. And they called the first one a draw, which was ridiculous. It was absolutely preposterous. And then they called the second one for Canelo. And listen, I went in cheering for Canelo. I like Canelo very much. And he was the guy I was cheering for. But yeah, when that fight was over and they said, I remember the first fight was over and they said, draw. Like me and everybody, we were at a sports bar and we had like 10 people there and we were all like looking at each other and said, did they just say that was a draw? Give me a break. I mean, boxing is just too fixed. Now, as far as Pacquiao, obviously I'm a little biased because Pacquiao's Filipino and my family is Filipino on Anne's side. So obviously my family has a big thing in that. Now I've actually been to Manny Pacquiao's house. This is a picture from a couple of years ago where they invited me over to his house, which was absolutely, by the way, see that portrait that's on the white wall behind me? Yes, that is a giant portrait of Manny Pacquiao of himself. flexing his muscles on the wall. But and it was a great day. I got to meet his mom. By the way, Manny Pacquiao's mom is like the coolest. I loved Manny Pacquiao. She was just doting on us all day. Would you like just trying to feed us and all this kind of stuff? Manny was super great and super nice to sit down and talk to. I couldn't believe that I actually got to go to his house. Very interested, but the dude is 43 now and he's fighting one of the best in the world. So I don't know how great that's going to be, but yeah, no, boxing to me, boxing to me is a poor man's MMA now. MMA to me is just the vastly superior sport, I think. So yeah, so no, honestly, I just think the judging is so rigged in boxing. I just never found there to be any reason to watch it, but that's just kind of my opinion, and who knows. All right. Next up, we've got Murray Reich, who writes, didn't we have already flashback scenes throughout the Supernatural series of young John and Mary? Yes. I'll watch it because I love Supernatural, but I can't stand prequels in my opinion. Listen, I'm with you. Now, obviously, there have been some good prequel material done, but in general, I like stories moving forward. Rob, you and I have talked about that a lot, about the notion of prequels. And listen, would I prefer if we heard that Supernatural was now doing a continuation, but it's not obviously going to be Sam and Dean, it's going to focus on, like, that's why I was excited for the Wayward Sisters. Or what was the other one going to be called? Bloodline? Or I can't remember what the other spinoff was going to be called. I was actually looking forward to those, particularly the Wayward Sisters, because it was something that would carry the story on. And like John and Mary, listen, I'm excited for it just because it's Supernatural. But the reality is it's not what I would have picked, because we know what happens to John and Mary. You know, we know all the significant things that happen along the way. We've had flashbacks of them and stuff like that. I don't know. The show could still be great, but I would have preferred a story moving forward nonetheless. Rob, what are your basic feelings on like stories that go back and tell older stories in an already existing canon? I'm a little bit negative on it, to be honest with you. How do you feel about them?
I'm kind of with you, John. Unless there's something really important, or unless the story itself stands on its own. I mean, to me, I think the greatest example of going back in time was in Godfather 2, where
Yes.
you actually see a young Vito Corleone and his rise to power, but at the same time, they were juxtaposing that story with what was going on with Michael Corleone as
Yes.
he consolidated his power. So by going back into the past, you also were being informed about the future of the family. I thought that was beautifully done. And again, in learning about the past, it was also informing a story moving forward. So even though you're seeing a flashback, it was relevant to the future story as well. Not everything can be that. I feel like when they go back and they tell prequel stories of any kind, it's really hard to make those prequel stories as interesting as what would happen moving forward, because they're already by definition covering areas that you could have extrapolated in your own imagination from whatever the thing was originally that you were watching. Like the original Star Wars, while the Clone Wars have turned out to like be okay, they've done a lot about the Clone Wars, but it was kind of neat not knowing what they were, you know, just hearing about and leaving it to your imagination. Certainly the Alien prequels haven't worked out all that well.
Yeah, and it's funny because Jupiter's Legacy tried to do that same Godfather 2 approach. They tried to do flashbacks that informed. In that case, it didn't work. But yeah, the Godfather was the perfect way to do it because they were using flashbacks to tell the present story. And that was great. Anyway, Rob, we've taken you past time again here today. Thanks a lot for being here, man. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. But in the meantime, where can people follow you and all of your stuff online?
You can find me on Instagram at Robert Meyer Burnett. Find me on Twitter at BurnettRM, or on my own YouTube channel, The Burnett Work.
All right, dude. Thanks a lot for being here again today, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a good one, man.
All right, man.
Ladies and gentlemen, the one and the only Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. He'll be back again tomorrow. But listen, guys, we still have some time, so let's keep on going through your questions, shall we? We're going to get things picked up here with Colin D., who writes, I saw F9 last night, big fan of the series, and thought it was just all right. My question is about your thoughts on Brian O'Connor's role now. Do you think he should be a part of the story off screen more, or keep him as a plot hole safety net babysitter? It's hard to say. You know, a part of me thinks that, you know what? Time has passed. Wounds have begun to heal. Maybe it's time to recast Brian and bring him back in, rather than just as a plot device babysitter who's off screen. You keep teasing him, you keep referencing him, it might make more sense to bring him back. And you know what? Maybe now that a number of years have passed, a few movies have passed, that the Fast and Furious audience would probably be open to it. Whether you use one of his brothers because, you know, they've used his brothers, Paul Walker's brothers, to do the stand-in work for him previously. Maybe you make one of his brothers play Brian now. You know, you keep it in the family sort of thing. I don't know, but it might be time. I don't know that they have to. They only have 1 or 2 movies left, so they say. But I think maybe it's time just to bring him back in, bring the character back, and have him played. I think enough time has passed. It's been a respectful amount of time. I think healing has happened. Just get Paul Walker's brother to play the role and keep the role relatively small, but I think you can bring him back. Anyway, that's just my thoughts on it. Okay, next up, we have James L.H. who writes, "Hey, John, 1 of 2. So you know if someone is high up and doesn't like heights and you say, don't look down, they always do. Or if you pass people all looking at something, inevitably curiosity will make you look. So this is the reason after I heard yours and Rob's review, I went to see Fast 9. Oh my God, this was really bad. In fact, the only scene I thought was okay was the mid-credit scene. The mid-credit scene was pretty good. Early in the film, me and my brother looked at each other with a what the hell expression. Amazed as of this writing, the Rotten Tomato score is as high as 63%. Yeah, listen, I'm amazed it is too. I am absolutely amazed that the critic score is as high as it is. I think that is overly generous. But again, that's the thing. Movies are subjective. We're all going to have different opinions. As you've seen, James, some people writing in today have really liked the movie. And that's great. I love that they had a good experience at the movies. I want everybody to love every movie, even if it's a movie I don't like. And I thought F9 was complete, utter garbage. But I want other people to like it because why wouldn't I want you to have a good time if you go to the movies? I want all of us to have a good time. So, but I'm not going to lie, man. Yeah, I am a bit shocked that the RT score is as high as it is for Rotten Tomatoes. But hey, that's the beautiful thing about movies, man. That's the beautiful thing about movies. All right, next up, the Sock writes, John, James Gunn's Suicide Squad is hunting you, but you can assemble your own team of Thunderbolts. You can choose anyone who's ever been on the team before. Well, I mean, that's easy. Juggernaut. Done. Done. Juggernaut. That's it. If I have to take a second, take Agent Venom. I will take Juggernaut and Agent Venom against the Suicide Squad any day of the week. Those two guys, boom. I don't even need I don't need Red Hulk. I don't need Hawkeye. I don't need anybody else from there. Give me Juggernaut. That's probably just good on its own. And Agent Venom. Those two guys, I would feel very, very safe and secure. I would feel very comfortable knowing that the Suicide Squad was after me, but I had Juggernaut and Agent Venom there. I think I'd sleep pretty well at night. That's my guess at any rate. All right, the next up. Where are we at here? Scott Brown writes, after watching Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard, which was not good, I thought I'm kind of getting tired of seeing 50, 60, 70-year-olds doing action movies. I'm just not buying it anymore, so maybe it's time to bring in some new blood and give some younger actors a shot. Well, let's not pretend like most action films don't have younger actors. They do. I have no problem with older action stars. I mean, I still completely buy Jackie Chan doing action. I mean, we were watching Jackie Chan doing action like into his 60s, like, and still high caliber level. And listen, say what you will about the, what's the Stallone movie called again? What are they again? The Expendables? Yeah, the Expendables. Say what you want about the Expendable movies. The action's always good. I mean, the action's always fun. I especially like Expendables 2. Like I really did like Expendables 2 a lot. Anyway, so it's not about the age of the actors, although you do have to take that in consideration for sure. It's about whether the movie's good or not. You know, is the movie good or not? I mean, you want to keep it a little bit within the realm of believability, but listen, go to Mr. Nobody. For those of you guys who saw it, right? With Bob Odenkirk's Mr. Nobody. Or I think was it called Mr. No, or it's just called Nobody. It was just called Nobody. Christopher Lloyd. I mean, come on. Can I buy Christopher Lloyd walking around in a big gunfight against a bunch of drug cartel guys? No, but did it work in the movie for me? Damn right it did. Seeing Christopher Lloyd walking around, blowing people away with the guns. I mean, come on, give me a break. That was fantastic. I'm gonna take my headphones off here now. That was fantastic. So yeah, I mean, here's the thing. We as movie fans are always looking for formula, right? We're always looking for formula. So if we like a movie that had a blonde female lead, we go, well, blonde female lead movies are good. No, that had nothing to do with it. It's just that that movie executed well and happened to have a blonde female lead. We see an action movie that maybe we didn't like so much, and it had an older action lead in it. It goes, well, then movies with older action leads don't work. Well, no, that's not it. It's just that this one didn't quite work. I mean, we as fans, and I do it all the time, we're always looking for elements that are the formula. And we want to then apply that. And I really just think, look, and I haven't seen it yet. Oh, I see some guys like Francisco in the live chat are mentioning Red. Red is a great example of a fun, awesome action film. Retired, extremely, what did Red stand for again? Retired, extremely dangerous, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, you know, you got John Malkovich, an older Bruce Willis. You got Helen Mirren in there. I mean, and that completely worked. Does that mean any action movie with older stars will work? No, that's formula, but it can execute and it can be well. But anyway, that's just kind of my thoughts on that. All right. Next up, we've got Austin W., who writes, John, I don't think Vin Diesel would like not being the main fight of a Fast movie. Solution? Fast 10. The Rock versus John Cena versus Vin Diesel in a triple threat Family Guy giant chicken fight. Winner gets to fight a Tyrannosaurus Rex in Act 3. Well, we all know how that would go, right? Even if, look, I've told you this before, and I say this as a big fan of the Fast franchise. I didn't like Fast 9, but I'm a big fan of the franchise overall, and you guys know Vin Diesel's my boy. I love Vin Diesel. Love this guy. But my one criticism of the whole Fast and Furious franchise is that Vin Diesel, especially as the executive producer, he insists on having Vin Diesel be absolutely invincible. That Dominic Toretto is absolutely invincible. It doesn't matter. Fight 20 heavily armed trained soldiers single-handedly, no problem. Pull down a concrete structure by the chains just with the might of his own Dominic Toretto arms, no problem. Take on a fleet of Russian tanks with nothing but a fishing rod, no problem. Dominic Toretto will win every time. And I don't like that approach. Love Vin, but I don't like that approach. And I think it affects the storytelling. And yeah, so you could have a movie where you had a triple threat of The Rock and John Cena, but you could have a team up of The Rock and John Cena versus Vin Diesel. Vin Diesel's going to make sure that Dominic Toretto doesn't only win that fight, but wins it easily and convincingly. And that's always been kind of my one little problem with it. Like even in Batman movies, you see Batman with his heels, on his heels and against the ropes many times. You watch Tom Cruise in the Mission Impossible movies. He'll get his ass handed to him sometimes. Like just go back and look at that incredible bathroom fight between him, the Asian target guy they had, and Henry Cavill. That was great. And you'll see Tom Cruise wants his character to get his ass handed to him sometimes. That makes for better, more fun movies because you feel the stakes. But yeah, they just kind of do that. Anyway. All right. Thanks for that, Austin. Next up, Raymond Verrata writes, while watching the ShangChi trailer, I was waiting for Bonnie Tyler's Holding Out for a Hero to play. LOL. Does she get a lot of royalties now that it's being used in trailers? Dude, it's been used all the time. She gets tons of royalties. After Journey's Don't Stop Believing, this gets a lot of airplay on TV shows and movies. Listen, just recently, there have been like 3 big... First, I can probably guess a dozen TV shows or movies that I Need a Hero plays in. It's a great song. But we just saw it recently in Loki. Then we saw it in the trailer for He-Man, which I didn't like. And then it also just played in another thing. Like it just, I can't remember what the third thing is, but it just played in another one. But it's probably done like over a dozen, minimum over a dozen of those things. And sometimes it's well placed, sometimes it's not. All right. Next up, we've got, where are we? We are at an anonymous user who writes, hey, John and Rob. I agreed with you on Loki episode 3. For me, it was lackluster compared to the first two. Also, I haven't heard anybody mention the theory that Sylvie could be a Frigga variant posing as Loki. I've said that myself. I brought that up several times. Now, look, I don't think that's what is actually going to happen. Just be clear. All right. But I love the theory that instead of being a Loki, she's actually a Frigga. She's actually Loki's mother, like a variant of Loki's mother. That would explain a lot. Again, I don't think that's what they're going with. I don't think that's what they're doing, but I do love that theory. I think it's a great one. All right, next up. Let's see here. An anonymous viewer writes, "Hey, John, when German theaters will open up again July 1st, the big change will not be showing any Disney movies. No Black Widow, Jungle Cruise. It's a protest against Disney's streaming strategy. Official announcement next week. Think others will follow." Yeah, this... Pardon me. We knew this was going to be an issue. There are movie theater chains that simply have a very strict rule. If you're going to play it day and date on a TV service, we're not going to carry your movie. And I get it. And that's just bad business for the movie theaters. Now, Disney reached out to the North American movie theater chains well in advance before they made those announcements, and they struck deals with them so they could make it work. But they didn't do that with a lot of international markets. And Germany's not the only one. There are some international markets that are just saying, look, if you're going to release these things on Disney Plus on the same day, we're not going to take up our screens. And so you're not going to make box office money in our territory. And I get it. I do. I'm not saying that's exactly what I would do, but I get it. And it's going to be interesting to see how this situation resolves itself. Now, listen, Disney's premium $30 release thing has not gone well for them so far. I know for a fact that it has not gone super well for them so far. Now, they need to experiment with it, and they need to try it numbers of more times. You can't just base huge future establishing decisions on a couple of sample sizes. You've got to do it more. So they're doing it with Jungle Cruise, which to me is them announcing they don't think the movie's any good. They're doing it with Black Widow, and they'll do it for at least 5, 6, 7 more films. And then we'll see what they're going to do. But so far, it has not worked out so well for them. So maybe it's a situation that will work itself out. Maybe it won't. We'll have to see. But I'm glad to hear your theaters are opening again, man. That is awesome. All right, next up. We've got Andy Anthony who writes, "Hey, John. So I had this dear friend who passed away after letting me live with him and his husband when I was down on my luck. And the whole time we watched movies while I was there, and we bonded over our love of movies. He had showed me a lot of movies I would have never watched otherwise. Musical ones like Rent. I can't remember the name. 682,600 minutes. I just always remember that song from Rent. Anyway, by the way, DJ Taterskin sends in like a $20 super chat in the live chat, man. Thank you so much for that badge, man. I appreciate that very much. Thank you, man. Anyway, that we never would have watched otherwise. Musicals like Rent, which I would have never watched. Also, Prometheus, Jeffrey, Moulin Rouge. Moulin Rouge is one of my top 20 favorite movies of all time, and so on. Any movies that any movies that mean more to you because the bond you made over the movie? Yes. I mean, there are lots of, listen, the great thing about movies is when they're shared experiences, right? That's what makes it best. I love going to the movies, and I'll go to movies by myself. I totally will, but it's always more special when I'm at a movie with Anne, or I'm at a movie with a buddy, right? And we get to share this incredible experience, because movies are, you've heard me say this a million times, movies are experiential events. They're experiential events. We go for an experience, and shared experiences are always better. Shared experiences are always better. Single experiences can be great, totally are, but shared experiences are even better. It's like sex. By yourself, that's fine. Always better with a partner. Or 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever floats your boat. All I'm saying is, since movies are an experiential event, it's always better with others. And it took me, you guys know the story. It took me losing a friend of mine, who growing up was my best friend. And it was so weird because we had kind of been out of touch for a while. Because, you know, I moved to LA, very, you know, busy time, whatever. And he and I would touch base on social media now and again. But really, we hadn't really connected in a real serious way in a number of years. And on one trip back to Canada, he dropped me a note and said, dude, listen, I know you're only in town like one time a year. We got to get together while you're here. And I'm like, yeah, man, because we had even though we connected, I hadn't seen him in like 5 or 6 years. And so on this one trip back to Canada, me and Brendan got together and had a great time. Another friend of ours from our high school days, Sherry, she came along as well. And we all just got to hang out, and it was such a great time. And it was the first time I got to see pictures of his baby and all this kind of stuff. Few months later is when he then told me that he just found out that his body was riddled with cancer. And not long after that, he passed away. To your question, though, he and I together, when we were kids, we got on a bus up on the mountain in Hamilton. Hamilton's broken into two parts. Like there's up on the mountain and there's downtown. He and I lived up on the mountain. We got on a bus, took it downtown to Gore Park, and went to Jackson Square, where they had movie theaters, to go see the Michael Keaton Batman movie. And it was the first time I had ever gone to a movie where there was a massive line. Like the movie theater was in the mall, but the line went all the way through the mall, outside of the mall, onto the streets. Like I had never seen anything like it as a kid. I had never seen anything like that as a kid. It was incredible. And so here he and I were, a couple kids, going to see Batman, being in an experience like that, standing in a line like that, and then watching the movie. And you got to remember, like, for people who are a bit younger today, like, you just understand, like, when Batman came out, like, there wasn't big comic book movie universes. There wasn't a big presence of comic book material on the big screen. It was so different and so unique. And it's like, oh my God, we're watching Batman. It was crazy, crazy good. And that was always very special to me. But once Brendan passed away, that memory had become even more special. So for you, Andy, for the rest of your life, when you go back and watch movies like Moulin Rouge or watch even Rent, a movie version that I didn't think was all that good, but still, when you watch Rent or Moulin Rouge or Prometheus, these memories are going to be even more powerful for you because of the shared experiences. And that's one of the reasons, one of the many, 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 many reasons why, to me, movies are amazing things. And the way they actually positively contribute to our human experience. So anyway, thanks for sharing that, man. That was a really nice story to hear. Appreciate that. All right. Next up, Simon writes, whenever you do get a chance to see episode 11 of Superman and Lois, and I did get around to finally watching that the other day, look for the scene where Supes heads towards the phone booth to change back into his Clark Kent clothes. I loved it. I can see that scene over and over again. It was filthy. Very classic Superman. Of course, in episode 11, there's a flashback scene where he actually ducks into a phone booth to change, which is, of course, the traditional Superman thing to do. Can't do that a lot these days because there ain't any frickin' things as a phone booth. There aren't phone booths anymore. I mean, not really at any rate. I'm sure there are some relics around somewhere, but it was a pretty cool scene to see, Simon. Absolutely it was. All right. Next up, we got Amber and Lex's dad who writes, hey, John, is it just me or does it seem like Tony Leung's voice is dubbed in the new ShangChi movie? I didn't think so. If so, do you think maybe it's been an intentional homage to old Kung Fu movies? I didn't buy that. I mean, there's definitely some ADR. I mean, there's definitely some look, almost most scenes in movies, actors then go into a sound booth and re-record their dialogue. And maybe that was the case there, but I didn't feel like his voice was dubbed. I'm sure they mixed the audio a certain way for the trailer to make sure his dialogues and his words stand out very crisp and clearly in the trailer. But I didn't get, maybe you guys in the live chat did pick up on that, but I didn't personally think that his voice was dubbed. I didn't think his voice was dubbed. Maybe you guys in the live chat disagree. But because maybe you're onto something, Amber and Lexi's dad, but I didn't notice that myself. Anyway, okay, next up. Andy Anthony writes, also, Patrick Stewart in Jeffrey. Man, that's a movie I watched once. Patrick Stewart in Jeffrey is such a funny role he plays. At one point, he's wearing a scarf and says, "Can I do this, or do I look like some kind of gay superhero?" I was dying laughing. Have you watched this movie? Thanks for all that you do. Now, I believe I've seen this movie. If it's the one where it's like the gay, it was set during when AIDS was becoming this big thing. And I believe the main character is this gay character. Is it the one where the main character decides, that's it, I'm going to be celibate from now on? Just even sex itself is just too stressful now with the AIDS pandemic. If that's the movie I'm thinking of, then I think I did watch it, but it was because it was 25 or 30 years ago, that one. I think I saw it anyway. Or maybe I'm thinking of a completely different movie, but if it's the one with Patrick Stewart, that should be the one, if I'm remembering it right. All right. Thanks for that, Andy. Appreciate that, man. All right. Time for one more, and then we'll wrap up here today, guys. This one comes to us from Dave Atkins, who writes, Giovanni Filthy. I like that because, of course, my real name is Giovanni. Giovanni Filthy writes, Dave Atkins writes, Giovanni Filthy, being the tech lover you are, wanted to know your thoughts on the Windows 11 reveal and whether you were impressed or not. I was satisfied personally, especially with the return to more translucent Aero interface and the gaming enhancements. Honestly, I need to get my hands on Windows 11 and really try it. Now, one of the things I was very interested with was Windows Spaces and how it remembers Windows Spaces when you connect a device to monitors, unconnect them, and it'll remember where everything was. That's interesting. But honestly, a lot of it was just very much an aesthetic changes. So I need to actually get my hands on it to really feel the differences. So right now I have no opinion on the Windows 11 release. I'll look forward to trying it, but so far I have not had a chance to get my hands on it yet and give it a shot. Okay, that will do it, guys, for this installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for joining us today and making our little discussion here a part of your day. We are always completely cognitive of the fact that it is an incredible honor that you guys give us by spending some of your time here with us today. You can be doing a lot of things, and the fact that you choose to come out and hang out here with us is awesome and amazing. So thank you guys very, very much for that. Listen, want to thank Robert Meyer Burnett for bringing his everyday glory and goodness to the show. And a special thanks to all of you guys who sent in these live comments and questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it. And all of us involved with the John Campea Show, thank you guys so very, very much for your support. Okay, guys, don't forget, we are going to have a companion video a little bit later today and get all caught up on the remaining questions, and there are still more to go. We got them from Dad Jokes, Major Tom, Willow, Daniel K. More questions to come, and we will address those in the companion video a little bit later today. Keep your guys' eyes open for that. And then, of course, me and Robert will be back again on the John Campea Show tomorrow. Hope you guys will join us for that then. All right, guys, that'll do it for me for now. Thanks a lot for being here. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.